With me today is Tansel Ali, and he is a four-time Australian memory champion, international best-selling author, and one of Australia's leading expert in memory and mental performance. Once someone who believed they had a bad memory, Tansel transformed his thinking through deliberate training and went on to memorize two full Yellow Pages directories in just 24 days. That is insane. Today, he works with leaders, professionals, and students to strengthen their focus, accelerate learning, and build sharper, more disciplined minds in an increasingly distracted world. So, welcome, Tansel.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
Such a pleasure. And I know so many people are going to be tuning into you. So, tell me a little bit about you and your journey. So, you once believed you had a bad memory. So, what happened there? And then what did that teach you about how much our mental performance is fixed versus trainable?
Yeah, it's going back a while now,
Yeah.
over 20 years, 24 years. But I always believed I had a terrible memory. I mean, I would listen to people have conversations. I would have had conversations and then forget straight afterwards. And my, grandparents, for example, would watch the news together, and then he'd test me and say, "Okay, what did we just watch?" I'm like, "I don't know." He goes, "But you just watched it." On TV. So there'd be little moments like that. Even when I started working, I was working in the IT field, and my boss would say, "Do this, do that," type of thing. And I have post-it notes everywhere and still forget to do half the things. So I sort of accepted it that, yes, I had a bad memory. I was still very capable. I mean, I finished university and got into sort of good jobs and did good work, but
Yeah.
it was just my memory. And I thought, what's going on here? And I sort of just accepted it as is. And a friend of mine came up to me and said, "Tansel, I can remember 40 random objects back to front, any order." And I thought, surely you can't. I mean, I know who you are. He was a bit of a prankster, funny guy. So I tested him and he memorized everything. And I thought, hang on, I didn't see him write down anything or cheat. I said, "Well, how did you do it?" And he said, "Well, it's just memory techniques." I'm like, "What do you mean memory? Like repetition?" I was like, "No, no, not repetition." So I started researching memory techniques, and lo and behold, as I started to read and learn about them, I started to do what my friend was doing, like remembering things. And it sort of dawned on me that a lot of this stuff we're not taught in school. So as I researched and learned a bit more, I came across the Australian Memory Championships, and I said to my friend, "Look, let's enter it. We'll come last. Who cares? We'll have a bit of fun along the way against all these nerds," because we thought it was pretty nerdy. Anyway, the competition came, and we went there, and we really didn't see any nerds, and there was people like you and me there, and people that were just interested in how the brain was working. And so we did this competition, and I came second in Australia and he came third, and we broke all these memory records. I'm like, hang on, we just learnt this stuff. How are we suddenly the best, the
Yeah.
best among the best in Australia? So that sort of led me to believe that, hang on, this is not something that you're born with. It's something that you train, which is what we did. And we weren't even at the best level. So ever since then, I thought, well, this is something that needs to be shared because schools aren't sharing it. Not that I've been to any sort of program or courses or anything like that. So
Mm.
that's been over 20 years now, and yeah, still sharing, I guess, the knowledge, the skills, the word, whatever it is, and helping others to be trainers and coaches as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my very shortened story.
That is such an amazing story. I love how you went and you thought you'd be competing against the nerds. I love that so much. But when people think about memory, or when I think about it, I think about remembering something or recall. But from your perspective, what does memory training actually do to your overall cognitive performance?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought it was when I got into memory. I thought, oh, yeah, it's just memorizing. So you start off with things like numbers, names, even random shuffle decks of playing cards, because you can, there's a technique. So you start doing that. And then you realize the more you train memory, the more you play the games, the more you want to do it. So it wasn't really learning. So I didn't go and, study books or do courses or anything like that, because I really hated learning, to be
Yeah.
honest, because it
Yeah.
was just so much work.
Yeah.
And you get to a certain point and you just give up. Because I remember back in my time, people had cassette tapes on memory. So they'd listen to certain tapes and then they'd just stop listening after a while, saying, no, it's too much. So I hated doing that stuff, but I loved playing games, which is what I was good at when I was young. I'd be playing games all the time. So that's what memory training was. It was just playing games. And the more I played the game, the better my memory got. Right now, once the memory got better, then it was like, well, hang on, I can now, because I know what makes things stick, I can make learning memorable. So I started learning a lot better. Not only that, because I knew how things stuck in the mind, I can communicate better. So I got into training and development roles that way. So I was, as an IT trainer, I was working, communicating complex sort of situations and scenarios and technical information and making it more easily understandable for people.
Yeah.
So it really helped out with not just communication, but learning as well. And that sort of brought on, well, okay, if I'm learning information better, can I communicate better? So I was speaking as well in public. And later on, I started organizing TEDx Docklands and
Yeah.
training, half the speakers there as well on how to make your message memorable. So it really spawned on into so many different areas just by understanding how to train your brain. Now I became a better communicator, better to build relationships with people because I understood what connection was, things like that. So it just grows and grows and grows, and then you start becoming, I guess, one with what memory is. Whether that's a better athlete, whether that's a better learner, or whether that's just communicating on a higher level.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, to your point before, at school, we learn through studying and trying to remember like the textbooks or what's being told in our lectures or classes. And then for me, when you mentioned the cassette decks, I used to tape myself and I would listen to myself back to try and remember things. Um, I'm not sure if there's anything in that, but a question about AI and the tech that we now have that stores everything for us. Like when I was younger, I used to know everyone's phone numbers off the top of my head. And now I couldn't even tell you like my husband's phone number is. So are we at risk of weakening our minds because we don't have to remember things now?
It sort of goes both ways. Like, we're on the risk of weakening it, definitely,
Mm.
but we're also on the verge of improving it significantly as well. So both things exist, and I'll explain why. If we're relying on technology and we're not exercising and using our brain, then essentially the technology is using us. If we use technology as a tool to assist, right? Now we can sort of exercise our brain in ways that we couldn't before, right? So it's sort of like that. It's like either use the tool or be used as a tool, if that
Use.
makes sense. So do we need our memory to remember numbers? No, they're stored in our phone. But what does memorizing a number actually do, right? It's the exercise. It's like I can walk to the park 15 minutes, get a bit of exercise, or I can drive there in 2 minutes. Well, what's the driving really doing? I'm getting there quicker, so there's a benefit there, but am I getting a physical benefit from it? So we have to look at the pros and cons on what actually happens when we are using technology in a way that is either benefiting us or might seem like we get there quicker, but we're not using the skills.
Yeah, interesting. Because Chat GBT or Claude or Perplexity or the gazillion things that you can use, I find it incredibly important to do what you're saying and to make sure that you are still doing the thinking. So brain dump stuff in there, absolutely, but don't let it do your thinking for you. Otherwise, as you say, like it's using you. But
Yeah.
I'm finding a lot of people are doing that now. It's like, oh, I'll write a blog, I'll get AI to do it for me. and everything sort of comes out same.
Yeah. Oh, look, I've done it myself. I've tested so many scenarios where I've used AI. I've put in, instructions on here's what I want to write,
Mm.
and then write up a lesson in my own tone and things like that. And it's amazing how we could do it, right? And then I've tested, okay, let's just write one up for myself without any AI assistance.
Mm.
And that's been more powerful. Why? Because now you're using your brain. You're
Yes.
looking at how to construct sentences. You're looking at how to develop a story. But I think the beauty in all of this is non-perfection, right?
Yes.
To see the human element. And this is what I feel as well. The more perfect society is getting with all the AI stuff, the more we're going to value the human, the non-perfect stuff. And I actually got this from because I used to play guitar in a metal band, and it was one of my favorite guitarists called Dimebag Darrell from Pantera. And this was before AI, even technology. He was talking about I guess, the human side of things, of making mistakes and actually enjoying the human process rather than everything being so perfect. And the more we look into this, the more unique we become as individuals. So, what does that mean for business? What does that mean for leadership? Your authenticity stands out, not your perfection. And in fact, the perfection, people know what's AI now, or mostly. So, yes, you might not know later on once it gets too good, but if it's so perfect, then you sort of know that that's not human as well. So, it's getting more and more interesting.
It is definitely. I agree with you. I love the imperfection. I love people sharing their stories and all the messy bits because that's what you can resonate with. And that's not what AI does well at the moment, anyway.
Yeah, and especially for leaders as well. You want to be able to articulate that story. You want to, because leaders, so what are they leading to, right? So they need to have that vision,
Mm.
as we keep talking about. Well, what does the vision look like? How do you communicate that vision as well? And if you communicate it, is it 100% that people are going to understand what you're talking about? So there needs to be that deeper level understanding that not even AI could help with, because it's just ingrained with thought, creativity, and uniqueness as well, which
Mm.
is only to the individual, not anyone else, because of all your history and experiences that you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing that leaders tell me so much is that they're overloaded. Like their head just feels really full, or like there's a vice, because they've got so much going on, people pulling at them in different directions, stakeholders, clients, blah, blah, blah. Is that a, you know, cognitive issue, or is it memory that they're feeling just really overloaded and it gets cluttered? Is there something in that?
Yeah, look, a lot of the people that I work with
Mm.
is experiencing that same exact issue.
Yeah.
A couple of my clients, they're CEOs of a construction company, and what happens is that they go through so many meetings and they have emails and names and functions, and they're always in it, and it's hard to perform every single time for the whole day and then repeat it again and again and again. So the question of, okay, I'm going to need memory techniques, I'm going to need skills, I'm going to need that, right? That just adds another layer as well. It's just another thing to do, right?
Mm.
So when people think of memory, or I've got to learn these skills, they don't think about, well, it's just another thing adding to the cognitive load. So really, the trick isn't to add more things; it's to use your brain in a way that actually, it's very simplification, but it's not about simplifying. It's about essentially knowing what to do in that particular scenario and getting rid of everything else as well,
Yeah.
for that time being. Because yeah, you might have meetings later on, you might have, to pick up kids, you might have all these things, but if they're not in your mind and you have what's called focus in the time being, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be more ingrained in what you're doing then
Yeah.
than living in the future or in the past. Because if you're living in those, that's still cognitive load. You're still downloading all that, and by the end of the day, you're tired without even moving. Why? Because all of that is affecting your mental ability. It's a load. Whereas if you don't have that load, and if you manage that load using certain strategies, then you've always got energy and you're always focused. And that improves recall as well, because that energy now that you've saved is used for recall. And this is what I actually do with my memory athlete that compete overseas, right? I actually help them save energy so that they can then use it for recall rather than improve memorization.
Interesting. So that word focus, I'm going to come back to this because the question I really want to ask you is about names. So you remembered 24,000. It's insane. I can't sometimes, like, seriously, and I feel awful about it. You meet someone, shake their hand, you repeat their name, and it's like, I'm so going to remember your name. 5 minutes later, like, gone. And that seems to be like a thing for me. It's like you can say, "Hi, I'm Tansel," and I'll go, "Oh, lovely to meet you, Tansel," and then I'll see you 5 minutes later. It's like gone. Um, is there, and I'm not alone. Is there a technique that you could share that will help us to remember names?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, names is one of the hardest things to actually remember, right? And the reason is that you look at a name, it's abstract. It doesn't give us anything, right? So if it doesn't give us anything and you're repeating, right? Because one of the strategies people say is repeat the name over and over and over again, right? Well, what you're doing is you're repeating the abstract. So it's not sticking anyway. So even repeating is not a good way to remember someone's name, right? But what you can do is you've got a number of things leading up to the name, right? So you've got all the pre-work that could be done, you've got during, and you've got after. So there's three stages. The first stage is preparing yourself. So if you know you're heading to a function, or if you know you're going to work and you're going to meet some people, right? It's like flicking a mental switch. You tell yourself, look, I'm going to meet some people. I need to be alert. So you put yourself on high alert that you're going to meet people, and your brain suddenly switches on and you become more aware. So any bit of data flying your way, you're going to be more observant and you're going to grab it. Right? So it's preparing yourself from beforehand. So you do that. Then during, right? It's more about understanding why you're there as well, why you're meeting this person. It's also caring. Obviously, that's the reason why you want to remember someone's name, because you want to show their importance, right? Not grab the data that you're constantly waiting for. So it's just relaxing, kicking back, listening to the person, full trying to understand what they're about. If they give their name, then it's like, okay, their name, I might know a Tom from somewhere, or I might know Tom from, like Tom Cruise, right? So it's just trying to associate what that name connects with as well.
Yeah.
That's a strong way of remembering rather than repeating, because we understand by stories and connection, right? So the association helps remembering a name. And then afterwards, what you can do, the third stage, is essentially look at it and go, okay, what were my conversations about? Try and understand the bigger story. Because when you're trying to remember, you're not trying to remember the details, you're trying to remember the higher level, which gives you the details. So it's more about recall rather than memorization as
Mm.
well. So if you prepare before, make a little visual, and then afterwards try and understand what that was about, you're not only going to remember the person, but you're going to remember the experience, and that's what it's about.
I love that. I'm going to try it tomorrow because I'm going to be at an event.
Excellent.
So you mentioned focus before, and ultimately being in the moment so that your memory isn't downloading a whole lot of stuff about the future. So if you had to share like maybe one or two other tips with leaders so that they can sharpen their mind, what is a couple of habits that you would suggest that they try straight away?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it depends on the situation, right, and
Mm,
what they're doing. But
yeah, true.
it's more about, I know a lot of the top leaders, what they do is they prepare beforehand. So whether they get up early or get to work early, whatever, and it's not about, okay, let's get rid of, the emails and all that sort of stuff. It's not about that. It's about preparing their mind, saying, okay, I need to just visualize and relax. focus on the breathing, just little things like that, just to make sure that your brain is in a state to take in information. Because if you're just getting up, go, 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 soon as you wake up, check your emails, whatever, like that gets your, the rat's running inside the wheel, straight away. You don't
Yeah.
want that, right? Some people, love that. But, if it doesn't work for you, then don't love that, right? So
Yeah.
prepare yourself again before, as I mentioned, and preparation is really key to all of this, right? Yes, there's going to be scenarios where you just hit bang onto it as well, and that's fine, right? It's about, if you've got 50 things on your mind, you look at, okay, what have I got in front of me, and then build a story of that, make that really big. Because what you're doing is, if you're making that story of what's next really big, you're sort of not focused on the other stories, right? So focus grows where your attention goes. So that's another little memory hack you can do is, let's say you've got a meeting coming up, saying, okay, instead of just seeing a meeting, well, what does a meeting look like? What are you talking about? Are there any points that are on your mind right now? And it's just getting into almost meditation mode on that one thing. And because you're focusing so much, everything else is sort of forgotten for that time being, right? And this is helpful. Why? Because you could be thinking about the meeting, but also thinking about other things as well. And that increases cognitive load, which is what you don't want, because all those things add up hour after hour. Even by the time you're home, as I mentioned, you get tired and you're thinking, I didn't even run anywhere.
Yes, exactly. I love that. So, is there a technique that you do at night? Because I find, like, at the end of the day, when you're winding down, some people scroll and look through the phone and doom scroll it. But that can be a time that you think about, oh my God, what do I have to do tomorrow? What do I have to do, straight away in the morning? Like, they can be focusing too soon on even good things that they have to do. Like, oh my God, in the morning, okay, I need to ground myself. I need to, get my brain ready. Do you have a technique that you use to switch off? Because we've all got a lot going on in our lives.
Yeah. I find the less I do, the better
Yeah.
as well, because then there's less to worry about and less to think about as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I switch off by watching Netflix. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, they say no screens before bed and all that, but
Yeah.
like, you know what? It's my time. I got to live. But the thing is, you don't have to really do anything, right? No one in this world says you have to do all these 100 things, and
No.
it's what we pressure ourselves with. We're our worst enemy when we think about it. So
Mm.
if we work on ourselves, on how we want to live first, and then work backwards from there, you sort of find that, hang on, maybe I don't need to, have a meeting for 2 hours. Maybe I can just have 20 minutes here, or
Yep.
something like that. Or maybe I don't need to have a meeting for the sake of another meeting for the sake of another meeting, right? So you start looking at efficiencies. And from what I've learned from memory training, because of competition, we have to be efficient. If it's not efficient, it's not working. And that carries on to everyday life as well. So if I'm in meetings or if I'm delivering speeches and whatnot, I'll look at the most effective way of doing it, not necessarily, something that's going to take up so much space in my brain. So this is why that's why I've got energy from like 5 a.m. till, whenever I sleep. And
Yep.
people think, how are you so energized? I'm like,
Yeah.
so when I look at it, it's like I don't have much to think about.
Yes.
you
Oh my
know,
God. I
um,
love that.
and it's not that I'm not doing anything. I'm always
No.
doing something,
Yeah.
but I'm just using my brain in a way that is not stressing out on certain things. Because at the end of the day, I can worry about things that have not happened. What benefit is that for me? Right? You might as well worry about something positive because the future hasn't happened,
Yeah.
right? So, and there's no reason why you should. Now, can you change the past? A lot of people say you can't. Well, you actually can in your brain. You just think of something better and then move along. So, there's a lot of things you can do that incorporate visual capabilities as well. But the whole goal, coming back to focus, is to minimize. And as soon as you minimize, then you got less to worry about, really.
Yes. Less is more. I
Yep.
love that. So, Tanza, I could speak to you forever and grill you on everything, but I'm mindful of your time. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about today that you would love to share on the potty today?
Yeah, I think the big ones have been about, connection and focus and, all of that, because I feel once you start getting that right, and it doesn't take long, believe it or not, it's not like you have to, do 7 years of training your mind and all of that. I learned this within weeks. And then I just started practicing. So it's not something that's, you have to be gifted or really smart. People are generally smart anyway. So it's just using your brain in a different way. So the trick really is that go and learn these techniques. Ask people. There's nothing wrong in learning about these skills. That's how I started. I just asked. I was curious, and in fact, I was a skeptic. So that's even worse. So from skeptic to talking to you now, it's just curiosity that's taken me there. So follow your gut, follow your heart, ask questions, make lots of mistakes, because at the end of the day, I mean, we only have one life. I'm close to 50 now. So, and I've been doing it for over 20 years, and who knows what's going to happen next, right? So go out and make the mistakes. Don't be afraid, because once you learn, it's life changing. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. And I'll be sharing the links in terms of how people can get in touch with you on the show notes. So, Tanzel, it's been an honor to have you as a guest today. Thank you so much for being part of Leading You.
Thanks for having me, Julie. Cheers.